Welcome to Navigating Advocacy, the true crime podcast that goes beyond storytelling to ignite change and seek justice. I'm Melissa.
And I'm Whitney. As true crime enthusiasts turned passionate advocates, we've seen the power of storytelling raise awareness about unsolved crimes and bring hope to victims and their families. We hope to inspire action and promote positive change within the true crime community.
Our mission is simple. We provide a platform for victims and their families to share their stories, to be heard, and find solidarity. But we don't stop there. We offer practical guidance to our listeners on how they can actively make a difference in their own communities.
Together, we can create a wave of change. We're here to empower you to also become advocates for change, no matter where or who you are. We are Navigating Advocacy.
Happy Monday.
Happy Monday. Welcome to mid-January.
Yes. Already here. January is not really an exciting month. I'm sorry. It's all about routine and cleaning your house.
Yeah,
that kind of stuff.
Breaking any resolutions. We're already to the point where if you forgot to go to the gym today, it's fine.
Exactly. You didn't go for the run? Okay, your resolution is over, and let's just be practical and try doing a run 2 times a week. Let's do baby steps.
There you go. Don't make it an everyday thing. You don't got to fully flip the script every year.
Yes.
Just pick something new to try.
Or get rid of.
Oh, yeah. Marie Kondo some stuff.
Yeah.
If it doesn't bring you joy, get rid of it.
Yes.
Now that we're this week, we can tell you about where we're going, what we're doing.
And we could see if any of your guesses were correct. It's very difficult to pick out one city in an entire country, but especially if that country is United States of America.
I'll tell you what, if someone got it correct in the comments, they're going to get something from us, like something big, like a sweatshirt, a t-shirt. We're headed out for our first action-oriented advocacy case of the year of 2024. And of course, we don't do anything small these days anymore.
Never.
We've shifted into Whitney's extra zone and we like to do things big. So we are going to Jackson, Mississippi to cover a case. And it just happens to coincide with National Missing Persons Day.
We couldn't pass up the opportunity to advocate on a larger scale, especially because we're already going to be together looking into a missing persons case. So we might as well do something big while we are there and bring awareness to so many other missing persons cases, not just in the Jackson area, because of course we don't like to do anything alone. So we are trying to get as many other podcasts to join in and bring awareness to cases in their area.
We may have some other people there with us in Jackson, but more importantly, we are bringing awareness across the country. More awareness we can get, the better. So we will be hosting a Honkin' Wave in Jackson. More details about this will come out closer to the event. It's going to be on February 3rd, which again is National Missing Persons Day. We'll get y'all kind of the information on where we're going to be, what corner we're going to be at, all those fine-tuned details because we've not ironed them all out yet, but we will get them to you if you're in the Jackson, Mississippi area or drivable distance. Heck, if you want to hop on a plane and come join us, you're welcome. Come join us. We will be there.
Awesome. Let's get into your Illinois case.
Yeah. Let's jump straight in. Damien Henderson was born on February 10th, 1987 to Charlene Scott James and Johnny Henderson in Champaign, Illinois. Champaign is located in the east central section of Illinois and has a population of around 88,000. Damien attended Champaign Unit 4 public schools, and it's a fairly large school district given how low I would consider the population. The school district has just over 10,000 students in it, in the whole district, of course, and it holds an above average rating, which I found nice.
Love that. Love that.
Damien excelled in athletics as he was regularly described as a big boy with an infectious laugh. He eventually reached 6 foot 4 inches tall, and basketball was his sport of choice.
Holy moly, and he chose correctly. That's a good sport, especially if you are have that height.
A childhood friend and once rival player described him in an article with the News Gazette as the biggest kid around, but a gentle giant. He remembered that he was the only kid that could dunk a basketball in middle school.
Oh my gosh, I bet that was, like, his party trick, like, his go-to thing, and everyone I have a middle schooler, and all the friends would just be like, "What? Look at what he could do."
Exactly, or like, I can imagine that it would be filmed now. It would just be his entire TikTok would be slam dunks as a middle schooler, you know?
Oh, no doubt, no doubt.
I found so many newspaper articles with his name at the top of the stats lines. He was an excellent rebounder, and his stature helped him maintain a dominant position as the team's center. Damien continued to excel in athletics and eventually earned a starting position on the regional championship team as a sophomore at Champaign Central High School. Even though he had a commanding presence on the court, Damien had a quiet, laid back, and humble personality. He enjoyed music and video games and, of course, basketball, but he was very selective of his friends. It took some time for Damien to open up to you. After graduating high school, Damien attended Lincoln Junior College, and he then went on to get a job at the Absolute Best and Custom Care Upholstery. His life as an adult was fairly quiet. He had two daughters that were his world. He always talked about them or would attempt to bring them up in whatever conversation he was having. When he was 27 years old on March 10th, 2014, Damien was arrested for aggravated fleeing or attempt to elude, speeding, and driving with a suspended or revoked license. He would plead guilty to the charges and was sentenced to 120 days of electronic home detention. However, he wasn't scheduled to report until November. In the weeks leading up to the day he was to report in, Damien was making strides toward improving his life. He had reached out to a previous assistant coach who worked as the basketball coach at his high school to meet up for lunch. He hoped that the coach, being a positive influence in his past, would maybe be able to help shed some light on how he could make changes for the better.
Yeah, he's going to an old mentor to get advice, be like, "Hey, I've messed up," but nothing that's unforgivable. I mean, that's just little bumps in the road. That's who you would want to go to, someone that is always giving you that advice while growing up.
On Tuesday, November 18th, 2014, Damien was set to report for his 120-day sentence. His girlfriend hadn't seen or heard from him and called his parents' residence asking if they had seen or heard from him. His mother then called law enforcement and notified them that her son had not come home. She also called his phone repeatedly with no response. In an interview with the News Gazette, Damien's mother stated that she knew something was wrong and that it was just mother's intuition. What she didn't know at that time is that a wellness check call had come into the Champaign Police Department around 8 a.m. A resident of the Shadowwood Mobile Home Park off of North Market Street reported a blue Dodge Caliber in the 0 to 100 block of Forsythia Drive, parked and running in front of his home. He told the officers that the car was blocking part of his driveway and that he thought the man inside was asleep. When officers arrived, they approached the vehicle and reported that a black male had been obviously injured and was deceased. Later that day, Damien's parents were approached by two officers at their home with photos of tattoos, seeking confirmation that that was, in fact, Damien. His mother was crushed.
I can only imagine. That's just like a parent's worst nightmare.
In one of the articles, she talks about standing outside or standing in the doorway and seeing two men walk towards her. And she immediately ran inside to the back of the house because she already felt something was
Mhm.
wrong. But she had hoped that, oh, maybe he was just in a car accident or maybe he's in the hospital, or she didn't immediately jump to the conclusion that he was deceased. And her husband had to coax her back out to have the conversation and to review the photos. And it's just heartbreaking to read her
Yeah.
feelings and her that moment.
Yeah, I can only imagine if I would be under the assumption if 2 officers came to my house when I had a missing loved one, they're there to tell me nothing good. So her wanting to avoid that, I totally get it. You wanna keep your head in the sand as long as possible and not realize that and not acknowledge that your son is dead.
What do they say? Ignorance is bliss. That's very much
Yes,
a if I don't know, it didn't happen. If I don't know, it
exactly,
didn't happen.
exactly.
The crime scene was processed and interviews of the neighbors were conducted. There were some conflicting reports. One said that no one heard a gunshot. One said that someone did hear a loud pop, but it sounded very similar to the pop sounds transformers sometimes make when they blow. Could it have been a gunshot? Could it have been a transformer? Could it have been nothing? I'm unsure.
Well, if you're on any neighborhood Facebook page, every time there is one of those noises, "Is that a gunshot? No, that was fireworks. No, that was my car," or just
Mm.
ridiculous things, but it comes up so often that I honestly don't know if I would be able to tell if there was a gunshot next to, but I'm not around a guns or a lot, so maybe I would know. I don't know, and I'm scared. What if I don't know?
I guess we'll never know unless you're in the situation. I
Which
don't
I
know how to
hope
help you through that.
which obviously I hope I'm not, but
Right. According to reporter Carol Varell, the scene did not match any other similar crimes. He was found in a dark area in the back of the neighborhood, and I pulled the neighborhood up on the map just to get a basic lay of the land. And it's one of those, like many subdivisions, that has one road that connects to the main thoroughfare. And then you weave your way in and out of streets into the back. Kind of, I don't want to say a web because it's more circular, but you have to kind of turn off and on streets till you get to that main road. Because there is only one entrance into that little, it's not a cul-de-sac, but it's kind of a subdivision, but for mobile homes.
yeah, gotcha.
I started to look up crime statistics for the area, and they weren't great. This is one of the more dangerous neighborhoods in Champaign. However, Neighborhood Scout gave the city as a whole a 19 on their crime index. We have had significantly worse locations, significantly worse crime statistics. The violent crime rates are double the state averages, but it's still at a 19.
See, that's it's crazy, and I have heard about Champaign, Illinois, and I do believe it was for the crime, like, I my initial thought was, "Oh, yeah, that is a crime-ridden city."
Your chance of becoming a victim of a violent crime is 1 in 142. The autopsy reports would come back on Damien, and it would list his cause of death as a single gunshot wound to the head. They immediately classified his case as a homicide. And of course, theories are crafted almost immediately. Why was Damien at this mobile home park? Who was he meeting? Was this even a place he had been before? Does he regularly frequent the neighborhood? Is it someone here that he was meeting, or was it just a meetup spot? Detectives told the same reporter as before that there is a possibility that Damien was there to buy or sell drugs. Detective Jim Bednars was very vocal that he is not concerned about any sort of drug related issues. He just wants to be able to get a few pieces of this puzzle together to know maybe why Damien was there. Doesn't really care about the happenings that go on, the buying and selling of drugs. That's not what his concern is. He wants to know why Damien was in that spot. Was someone meeting him to buy? Was someone meeting him to sell?
Yes. Drugs on the scale of a murder are very low, and is if you have information, you could also ask for a deal. "Hey, make me immune to all of this." But if you have information in a murder, like your drug situation from a while ago is not gonna make a difference to police.
Unless you're Pablo Escobar,
Yeah.
then we got bigger issues.
There's always exceptions to every rule, okay?
Right.
But you would know if you were a drug lord, so
This is true. In that same interview, he pleaded with the public to please let him know if there was a possible connection. He also stated that he believed this neighborhood to only be a meeting place, that Damien was not visiting any one of the homes. How he came to those conclusions, I'm not quite sure.
see, it's just like they give us a little bit information and then I can spin it 100 ways. Like, how do they know that? Or does that mean this, this, this? And it just drives me crazy. I want all the information.
Damien did not have a criminal history of anything drug related or violent crimes. He did not carry a gun. But his parents did say that Damien had made poor choices in his life that he was really trying to remedy. That's why he had made those lunch plans with that school coach. He wanted to do better for his daughters, and his parents had begged him to stop selling. He was literally only selling to provide a better life for his daughters. He worked very hard at his regular job, but it wasn't enough, so he used it to supplement. Investigators were able to unearth a few leads to help the timeline of where Damien was leading up to his murder. Detective Bednars reported that Damien had driven around town a bit and met with a few different people, seemingly trying to tie up any loose ends that he may have before he was put under the electronic monitoring for 120 days. One interaction was not pleasant and turned into an argument, allegedly about money. When investigators spoke with this person Damien had argued with, they were not very helpful in the investigation. In fact, they barely even cooperated. From here, the investigation comes to a screeching halt. Damien's case remains unsolved. His daughters miss him terribly. His mom still gets to see his daughters regularly, even though they live with their mother. And it will be a decade this year since Damien's murder. Detectives are still seeking the public's help. If you saw, heard, or know of any details, no matter how small, related to this murder, please contact the Champaign Police Department by calling 217-351-4545, or you can submit a tip anonymously through Crime Stoppers at 217-373-8477. Crime Stoppers at one point had a $5,000 reward connected to Damien's case. I couldn't find if it was still active or not, but if you submit a tip, it doesn't hurt to ask.
Mhm. Wow, this one just seems like it could be solved in the middle of a neighborhood. Oh,
This is one of those that really, if it would have been 3 years later,
exactly.
everyone would have had a Ring doorbell.
Yeah,
In
and yeah,
2014, I think it was still an early thought to have a
uh,
Ring doorbell, but 2017, everybody had those. They were like Amazon wish list number 1 item.
yeah. I just wonder about, like, cell phone information, data coming out, at who he texted. You would feel like
They
if you
did they
Oh,
did look through his phone, but it didn't turn out any leads. They followed them a little bit to see who he talked to, where he went, and that's how they were able to build out that timeline a little bit to see that he had driven around and gone to other places. I Apparently they weren't able to find who he was meeting,
mhm. See, and that's
so I'm
just
not
unless
sure.
he had a second phone, you're like, you would assume you would have to text or message the person you're meeting for a meetup time, a meetup location. That can't just I guess unless you called, but then you would still have the available phone numbers,
Mhm.
at least
It
a
was.
starting point. Huh, sorry, this is just so many questions, so
And
many other.
he was found fairly quickly. They believe that he was murdered between 10 p.m. and then the call came in at 8 a.m., around
Mhm.
8 a.m. for the wellness check. So in my mind, that's a fair
Yeah,
compared to some of the cases we have, that's a fairly small window.
yeah, I completely agree. Small window and it being right there, contained. Yeah, and he
Mhm.
was found, yeah, quickly. It's not like he went missing and now we have to deal with other issues because of decomposition. So,
Mhm.
man.
The blue Dodge Caliber was his girlfriend's car, and they
Mhm.
said that the crime scene, there was nothing significant about it. I'm assuming they processed it well
Yeah. Yeah,
because
so,
there is very little. There's 10 articles,
yeah.
and once after they seek the public's help, there's not an article for a couple of years, and then from the 2-year anniversary on, there's nothing.
Yeah, it's just one of those ones you're just like, "Come on, someone knows something. Come forward. It's time."
It's time.
We want to share a few ways you can support us to continue our mission. You can become a Patreon subscriber, or a simple rate and review on your favorite podcast platform helps us get in front of someone who may know something.
We will continue traveling state by state seeking justice because we will be there no matter where.
No matter who.